Today we're going to be tackling a problem that has ruined more homes than termites. Relationships with couples who have wildly different design ideas. If you think about it, the signs have been there from the beginning. On your first date, you walked into their apartment and saw a life-size stormtrooper greeting you, while your home is beautifully curated and could be on the pages of a catalog. Or maybe they're a minimalist, while you never met a throw pillow you didn't like. There are extreme cases that this might not work for, and you might have to break up. Like, what if one of you is craving a tiki-themed house, while the other thinks a perfectly designed room has a single couch in it and maybe a table? I don't think I can help you. Just kidding. Well, mostly just kidding. I don't know that that would ever work. But before you call it quits, let's try breaking this down into very simple steps where you can both feel that you've been heard, that your styles are represented in your home, and that you have created a space together that you can both love. First, we need to identify what kind of style clash you're having. It's like couples therapy, but for furniture. All right, we have the classics. Minimalist versus maximalist. One of you thinks that a single orchid is sufficient decor, while the other hasn't seen the surface of the coffee table in years. Modern versus traditional. For one of you, perfectly designed living room looks like a spaceship, while the other one would rather be living in a Jane Austen novel. One of you thinks that beige is a food group. The other one looks like they've robbed a rainbow and put it in their house. This is the classic, what function does it serve and what does it do, versus it just sparks joy and makes me happy. And finally, budget versus luxury. That's pretty self-explanatory. Here's the good news. Every single one of these clashes can be resolved without calling it quits. The bad news is that you're both going to have to compromise. Oh, I know, groundbreaking. You have to actually compromise in a relationship. Stick with me. I've got some real gems in here. Before we get to specific solutions, let's talk about the strategy. Blending your design styles is actually great relationship practice. You have to listen to each other, see each other's points of views, and come to a compromise. And occasionally hide purchases in your car for when the other person's not home. I mean, this is hypothetical. I've never done that. Never. Step one, stop trying to convert each other. It's not going to work. Your minimalist partner is not going to suddenly embrace your collection of 47 teapots. It's not happening. You're not going to decide one day that sleeping on a mattress on the floor is a Zen experience. You will never see eye to eye, so just accept it and move on. To step two, find your common ground. It may seem that you don't have any common ground, but I'm sure it's there. Like you could say, we both hate orange, or a silver teapot on the mantle is not going to happen. Whatever it is, you just find something very basic and then you can build from there. Step three is to give up on the idea of a unified theme throughout the home and to start breaking it up into different zones so that each person with their each style can shine in different areas or zones in the home. Breaking up of your space will save you from breaking up your relationship. Now let's get into some practical approaches for each design style clash. For minimalist versus maximalist, create display zones that live right alongside an area that is cleaned off with nothing on it. Not only does this provide a visual rest zone, it lets a beautiful collection be displayed and a minimalist space is right next to it. Just like you in your living room when you're watching TV. One versus the next. Invest in closed storage to hold the maximalist's collections. Storage is going to be key in this blending because of all the things that are collected with love over time by the maximalist. Closed storage, not an option. Find pieces that you both can agree on, and I would probably recommend letting the minimalist have a larger voice when you choose pieces, just so that they feel that they're part of that process. And for the maximalist, a one in, one out policy has to be enacted and stuck to. No hiding things in the trunk. Shh. The compromise here is that a minimalist can come to the belief and understanding that a home can tell a story through objects that are within it, while the maximalist needs to start to learn to curate rather than just accumulate. For modern versus traditional, the transitional style was made for you. I mean, there are so many options in the design world for this transitional style. You can have modern layouts with a couple of traditional pieces, or you can have mostly traditional with some modern pieces. And I like to use the ratio of an 80-20. So one room can be 80% traditional, 20% modern, while the next room or the bedroom or whatever the next room is can be the opposite. And that way each person can feel like they have an equal say in the home as a whole. The thing that will unify the home in this approach will be a unified color scheme. So a color scheme that's carried throughout the home, even if the ratios are different in each room, will make the home feel unified overall. The compromise in this particular clash is that it's not all or nothing. You can blend different styles and have it work beautifully. All right, color versus neutrals. The best way to compromise on this one is to have a completely neutral background with colorful accents that can be changed out. This is especially important for somebody who loves seasonal decor, like me, who can change out the brighter seasonal elements on a more frequent basis to get more of the different seasonal colors into their home. If you're not into seasonal decor, that's cool too. You can select different colorful statement pieces in an overall neutral room that will beautifully go together and harmonize. The compromise here is that the neutrals lover is going to need to accept some color into their home, while the person who loves color is going to have to come to accept the fact that it's not going to look like a rainbow threw up in their house. So practical versus decorative. Beautiful and functional is the goal. And that's my goal whenever I work with clients, is to have function and beauty and not just stuff for the sake of stuff. Well, that's not true. I do like some stuff for the sake of stuff. To blend these two together, every room is going to have a functional foundation with a couple of fun items in it just because, and that's okay. The practical partner needs to acknowledge that beauty in and of itself is a function, while the decorative partner needs to agree to keep walkways and work surfaces clear of the ceramic unicorn collection. Budget versus luxury. Whenever I do design, whether it's for myself or someone else, I do like to mix high and low because, you can get away with a lot more on a budget, if you have like one or two statement pieces and the rest can be from IKEA or whatever. You can take turns selecting statement pieces that you plan on keeping for your lifetime or generations. You can save on big pieces and then splurge on art or decorative pieces, or vice versa. And mixing high and low will give you an intentionally eclectic look, which is also a way to design things. When you're sitting down to make your budget as a couple for your space, make sure that each person gets a say. One person might want a really beautiful light fixture, while the other person wants to splurge on a sofa. Make sure that there's room in the budget that's equal for both of you. Now that we've been through the practical solutions for each clash, let's see some examples. I don't actually have real examples except for my own home, but I found these on the internet. So this is what my imagination came up with. So the first example is actually in our own home. So before we lived in this Victorian home, we lived in a more modern home, and I was all about clean spaces and clean surfaces. I was actually quite more minimal than I am now. And that's the other thing too to remember, is that as you go on in your relationship and you grow old together, things are going to change. Your design style might be different in 5 years than it is now. Anyway, I digress. Back 5 years ago, I had a much more minimalistic approach to design choices. And the idea of putting a bunch of antiques in a room would probably make me have some palpitations. So what we ended up doing is blending those styles and getting a much more modern approach. So as you can see in the living room that we have now, most of our furniture pieces are mid-century modern, and then we throw in some beautiful antique plant stands and a library table, and the sconces are very traditional. So this blending can work, and this is a real life example of it. And so for the second example, I found some maximalist collectors and minimalist married to a practical minimalist. In this example, the collections are contained in beautiful display cases. There's some clothes storage, and there are visual rest areas, and this will keep the minimalist, their kind of anxiety level down, which is always good. The key takeaway here is that neither person's approach or design preferences take over completely. There is a third option that if you have the room for it, whether it's an extra room or space in the home or space in your backyard or something, each person can have their own room that they can do whatever they want with. It's the whole man cave, she shed concept where this is their space and they can put as many Pokemon figurines as they want in there, or make it as frilly and the other person can't say a thing. So that's option 3. Obviously that can't work for every room in your home because there are going to be rooms that you share. But if you have the space and the resources, that's another really good option. The reality is, design differences can actually create a more beautiful space. It's those differences when they're blended intentionally that can create something really unique and beautiful that tells the story of you as a couple. Think about a chef who is designing a dish. They don't use 2 different kinds of parsley. Usually it's like one or the other, and then they use a bunch of other ingredients to create something truly magical. And that's what you and your partner are going to work on. So before you break up over the bubblegum pink accent wall or the room full of sports memorabilia, remember that a home that represents both of your personalities is going to be far more interesting than one that is just decorated by just one of you. If you can't absolutely agree on anything, there is always the nuclear option of just drawing a line down your house and you guys get to decorate each side separately, or buy a duplex and then you each get to decorate each side the way you want. I'm just joking. Although I did have to do that when I lived with my sister and we shared a room when we were kids. Yeah, I actually put a line down the room. Remember, at the end of the day, it's just stuff. Your relationship matters far more than being right about a coffee table. Unless it's a really ugly, ugly coffee table, then just break up. If you are one person in a couple that has successfully blended 2 styles together, I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And I always have something coming down the pike. When that next video is ready, I'm going to put it here, and then Google thinks you should watch this one. Thanks for being here.